Welcome to the Techtonica demo. Previously, we were playing in the alpha, where we built a very large factory, did some fun decorations, and kind of ruined the frame rate occasionally. Our old save is no longer valid when we come to the demo, so we're gonna just dive right in with a new game.
Warning, structural integrity failing. Emergency resuscitation of all personnel initiated.
Now, the start of the game hasn't really changed much from alpha. So we still need to pick up our items, build a crank, and get on out of here. That said, cranks do have a nice new model. So we'll activate it, it powers the floor, we can instantly pick it up and take it with us, and the doors open. And that's where we come to Sparks and the previous Pioneer. What a poor soul. So let's grab Sparks and get on out of here.
You are a sight for very sore eyes.
That's good to see you too, Sparks.
Get a read on your voice or ID signal, but I assume you work for me.
It's very presumptuous.
We wouldn't get much done if we tried it the other way around. Let's go.
Fair enough. Inspect our terminal, grab the pickaxe, adjust our inventory a little bit, hotbars, and outwards we go. Now Techtonica, like other factory building games, relies on us farming resources, feed them into machines, and then feeding those into more machines to make more stuff. It's fun. And the great thing about it is that you can do it any way you like. The way you do logistics, the way you plan things out, there's no good set way to do it. So the way we progress in Techtonica is by upgrading these terminals, which require different items. In this case, we need to get some ore, which is a great starting spot. So we're gonna go ahead and pop out some drills and place them down. While your drills are building, go ahead and start picking up plant matter. There is an easier way to get plant matter, which I'll show you in a moment, but this would be the more traditional way. Just run around, you can pick up just about anything. Mushrooms, bigger mushrooms, the big old giant Kindle vines, these big yellow things. And that gets you started. All right, so now that I've shown you the traditional way to get plant matter, I'm going to show you an easier way that currently works in the demo. Whether you use this or not, it's up to you. But you see all this grass here? This is great, but all of this is plant matter. And every time we drop down something on that grass, it clears the grass and gives it to us. So if you have some machines, you can just drop down several, pick them up, and before you know it, 10,000 plant matter, all in a couple of minutes.
Fuel to get those machines running. Try harvesting a few plants. They'll forgive you.
Thanks, Sparks. I'll try that. Okay, now that we have fuel, let's go ahead and get our miners down on the copper and the ore. We're gonna put at least 2 down, preferably 3 since we built 6. A stack of plant matter will actually last for 83 minutes. So we're gonna be good for this start of the game. We don't even need to automate our fuel. Quick note, if the miners don't go down the way you want, you can rotate them with R after the fact. All right, we have 6 drills going down now. This is a good chance to explore for a moment while it mines your ore, maybe pick up a little bit more plant matter. All right, once your drills have been running for a little while, we're gonna go pick up our 100 ore. You can just tap space to pick up really fast. Then we can feed that ore to the terminal, repair it, and we're on to the next tier. And now we just need to get some ingots, 100 of each. This is where we get access to smelters. So the way we're gonna get access to the smelters, all right, Sparks, I'm trying to talk. All right, in order to do the next terminal, we actually need to automate. We could do it by hand if we really wanted to, but crafting ingots takes a long time, and I don't want to do that. So we start by picking up this scanner, and then we can start scanning stuff, like the light sticks, and these wrecks over here, which is where we get access to our smelters. Let's go ahead and scan them all, and we'll know that once Sparks stops talking. Scan the extra stuff for extra parts. Once we got the smelter scanned, we'll actually have it be able to unlock in the tech tree. We unlock stuff through having red cores or green cores later in the game, but not in the demo. And you can see we have 16 red cores available. We have 16 placed and 16 available. We get 16 for free up by the Lima terminal here. And so we'll spend these cores to unlock tech. In this case, we'll use 1 for the smelter, and we're also going to go to the logistics tab and unlock the long inserter as well for 3. If you ever find that you've spent too many cores and you need to unlock something to progress, you can always deactivate some things in your tech tree by just clicking on it again, and that frees up those cores. You'll be able to make as many cores as you want later, so it's only like something you might have to deal with very early. I'm gonna get some smelters down and we're gonna move on. Now, if you don't want to be handcrafting lots and lots of ingots, one of the best things to do is before you even automate anything is start getting the smelter down, pick up some resources, dump it inside of it, feed it some plant matter, and let it start making ingots. Now, if you ended up handcrafting some inserters like I did, another thing you can do, if before you spend time doing belts and everything, is that you can actually put the smelter right up next to the drill and feed it directly from the drill. This is not the most efficient way to build your smelters and drills, but for the very start, to get our ingots automated, this is an easy way to get started with the minimal amount of effort involved with handcrafting. So we want to get as many smelters down as we can. We want at least 6 down if we can. That way we start getting this process accelerated. Now that we got some smelters going, we could easily complete the terminal with just this. We could pick up our 100 ingots each, dump it in the terminal. So if you want to rush on to the next one, that is a totally valid strategy. If you want to do a little bit of factory work, I'm going to demonstrate that right now. Start building some belts and inserters so we can do a small factory and feed these items into the terminal, which is what I've been building right here. Now that we got some inserters and belts, let's take a look at how we could automate this process. If you don't want to worry about automating your fuel, you can get the miners as close together. Otherwise, leave a space between them. And we'll do that as well really fast. Then we're just going to bring a belt out, bring it across, and that's where we're going to start adding our smelters. I'm going to use 3 for now, although we could certainly do some more. These produce about 30 per minute right now, and these consume about 24 per minute. A good ratio to start is actually 4 drills to 5 smelters. That'll produce 120 ore. This will eat 120 ore and produce 60 ingots per minute. But for right now, since we don't have a lot of resources, we're going to start with this. You are going to want 2 inserters to output the ore from each drill because they only move about 18 items per minute and will be producing 30 ore per minute from each drill. So we need 2. If you want to fuel, we're actually going to have a second belt that will run down here like this. Since we can't use the long inserter to get to that very easily, there are different ways to do it. So one way I like to do it is if you separate the belts like this, is you can go up and over like this, and you can bring the plant matter all the way up to the drill, and we can use a regular inserter to feed it. So that way we have our ore coming out on this belt, and we'll have some plant matter coming on this belt to feed our drills. That said, as I told you before, the plant matter stacks last 83 minutes. You probably don't need to automate unless you plan to keep your factory here, which is totally fine. And we'll just put a container over here to hold all the plant matter that we've picked up. And a fun note is you can actually do belts backwards, just like this. And we're going to run that over to the container. And we're going to actually run a belt all the way around the container, just like this. You can then put 4 inserters on it, and you will be able to insert right into the merger right there. Dump all of our fuel in it. And so now we've at least automated sending our fuel into the drills. We have plenty to supply us for now. As we said, a stack will last a long time. So we're good. That said, we now need to get ore into our smelters and fuel into our smelters and our ingots out. So we're going to use every port available. As I said before, these smelters will consume 24 ore per minute. And since I stated a regular inserter only moves about 18 items per minute, we need 2 to get all of the ore that we need into the smelter per minute. Now, when it comes to fuel and ingots, we're actually going to use 2 belts, but from the front. Since our smelters only output 12 per minute, we can actually output our ore onto one line, like this. And with some long inserters, we can actually pull fuel in from the second belt into our smelters. And we have our fuel line right here. How convenient is that? We'll just do a splitter, let it run, and our smelters will fire up and start outputting ore onto our belt. Just like that. And now we have a belt of ore started. And the great thing here is that we can take this belt, if we have enough belts left over, and we can run it all the way over to our terminal. And these little ports, we can actually feed the items into the port. So we're going to go ahead and let our ingots start feeding into it. But if you still need more ingots, don't do this quite yet if you need to produce more. which I actually do, so I'm gonna steal it. Give it to me. Okay, with just a touch of handcrafting and a sprinkle of spaghetti belts, I have set up 3 smelters on our copper, just like our iron node. And we're gonna run that over to the terminal and let it feed. And it looks like while I was completing that, the iron ingots finished their feeding into the terminal, so it's all done. So we can pick up this one and end this belt. And actually, if we want to get these copper ingots in here faster, we can turn the belt right here and use more inserters to feed it faster. And with that, we're actually going to build a couple of containers, because the one thing we want to do is leave this running for a little while we move on to the next area, so that we can start building up a small supply of ingots. So that when we get started on the next part of the factory, we have some ingots that we can craft with and not have to handcraft it. So in order to save some of the ingots we're making right now, let's just go ahead and run a container and run a belt around it. Just like so. Since we only have 3 smelters, 3 inserters should be enough, but in case you add additional smelter, go ahead and add all 4. And this will make sure that our container gets a nice little stockpile of ingots. Currently, there's no built-in mechanism for limiting the amount of space we allow for something to fill inside of a storage unit. That said, an alternative way would be to put your plant matter down, and you can actually drop by right-clicking. You could use a plant matter or a limestone, and you could actually fill up the container. Just don't hit sort, but you can actually place all the stacks you want, and that way, if you wanted to limit the container, this would be a way to do it. Just don't hit sort, because then you'll do this, and you'll ruin your hard work. But we're not going to limit this. We're not worried about that for now. We're going to go ahead and let it fly. Are we done already? Oh, that was fast. All right, we can pick up our belt. Let's go ahead and repair this terminal and move on. Now, one thing people tend to miss is how to get to Victor Terminal. It's pretty easy to get to on your own, but if you want a marker on your map, just walk over to this. This is the radio. If you inspect this, after it finishes its talking, there will be a nice big marker that'll pop up that you can see right there. And that's the easy way to find Victor Terminal. That said, we need to get the mole and the echo sketch, which is what she was talking about while I was talking. So there's a couple places to get the fragments. You might have already found some if you were looking around. There's one up here for the mole, next to our cores. There is another one near a mine shaft. If you explored this area, you might have found it. But there's 2 more down here, and that'll give us all 3 fragments we need. So that's the quick way to do it. There's 1, and there's 2. Once you get the mole, unlock it in your tech tree, and then you can go ahead and craft it. Once you've crafted it, you can actually deactivate it, and you'll still be able to use it. If you need to be able to save your cores, deactivating your mole is certainly a good way to do it, because you can still use it if you've crafted it. You just can't craft any more, and we only really need 1. Now, our Echo Sketch is right here, and this is the map. And just like the mole, we unlock it in the tech tree. We can craft it in our equipment menu, and if you want, after that, you can deactivate it and the map still works. This may not continue to function like this in early access, but it still works like this in the demo, which I'll go ahead and demonstrate by deactivating it since we've already started in our crafting queue. And now we've finished crafting the Echo Sketch, and you can see it's still deactivated in the tech tree, but we can still bring it up and use our map as we please. So if you need cores in the very early game, this is an easy way to unlock some technology and then deactivate it to get the cores back to unlock other things you need to automate your factory. That's not an issue you have just yet, but you will. That said, we now have our Echo Sketch and our wonderful mole. We're going to start heading towards Victor. Ah, so satisfying. Now, we can use our map to help us find the easiest way to get to Victor. We can see Victor's over there. As we can see, if we look at our map, the closest point to the pathway up is right here. So we can just dig through this wall using our mole, which you can see changes the landscape whenever we make a change. So one more blast should do it. And there we go. And here we are, Terminal Victor.
A few thousand twinkling lights. I'm sure you've got people there too.
So gorgeous. I kind of miss the blue. They had blue plants up here in the alpha. Kind of miss that. Otherwise, this place is gorgeous. So we can check out the Victor terminal, and we see that we need 3,000 conveyor belts, 3,000 power floors, and 1,500 inserters. You don't want to be handcrafting this. I mean, you could, but why? This is a game about automation. And automating a factory is what we are going to do in the next episode. So be sure to tune in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.